Baloney's Cove slide, that was another 600 acres, and that began in 1978. When this slide occurred, they formed what was called a GHAD, a Government Hazard Abatement District. That allows you to perform a pseudo-governmental district to deal with your neighborhood problem. The mitigation measures in 1957, 4-inch diameter concrete pins, 20 foot deep and 10 feet into bedrock. They failed after 5 months. I want to point out the Portuguese Inspiration Point on this side, Portuguese Point on the far side. Those are two of the most stable pieces of land on the peninsula. That's why they're points. That's why they're sticking out there. They're points. You know where that cave is that goes through the rock?
Yep, right down there.
If you look directly above that cave, you'll see a line in the stone. That line is a fault line, and it allows the see that little crease there? That allows the land to move a little bit, and it causes the rock to crush. And so when the waves hit it, the waves wash it out, and that's how it makes a tunnel through that rock, by taking out the debris along the fault line. So they had a moratorium, like I said, the dewatering wells, runoff control on the canyons, unloading the overburden at the head, and put in a sewer installation system. The colorful stripes in the bluff face, those are the layers of the sediment. You see how if you look at those layers of sediment, you see they have a slope to them. If you go up to the top of the slide zone, it's called the ancient slide. It hadn't moved in 100,000 years prior to that, but the development up on Santa Catalina, and then that development they put in there, that's right on the top above that slide zone, but that area is very stable. They did all the geology work because the land up there is what they call an anticline. Instead of sloping towards the ocean, it slopes the other way, and it acts like a wedge.
A lot of that was chocolate, right? The chalk fields. It was named the chalk fields, right?
I don't know what the rock formations are, but it slopes the opposite direction.
We just passed
the
Portuguese Point. What is that? The building there?
That's for sale right now. Rick Edler has it listed. There was going to be a big estate out there. One of the guys that worked with the Vanderlip family was going to build a big estate there. He got the gatehouse done, and then with this landslide and everything, they stopped all the development. If you go through that house, very uneven. You get very dizzy walking through it. Ellen Vanderlip was the daughter-in-law of Frank Sr. Frank Sr.'s son married Ellen, and she lived in the Valletta estate. Right next door was the old cottage that sold a year or so ago, and Susan Vanderlip, the son of the wife of John Vanderlip, she just recently died, but she lived there, and her and Ellen were bitter enemies. They didn't get along at all. Across from Long Point, this was the Marineland site. Across from it is a development called, what the heck's it called? Well, you'll see that the Peninsula Point, they call it, but the street name is Tremonto, and that came from Vanderlip. Vanderlip was going to develop a village there called Tremonto Village, copied from Tremonto, Italy. Off to this side over here, if you're like over at Trump and you look up at the hill, you see that big scarp on the side of the hill. That's not part of the landslide. That is actually the Livingstone Quarry. And they mined barite, quartz, gypsum, and dolomite from 1945 to 1956. And if you go up Forestall Drive, which is right across from the entrance to Trump, to the very end, you can park there, and there are fantastic trails to walk back in through those canyons and stuff. This is the original Portuguese bend landslide. This is the big slide that started here. It's an active, it was an ancient landslide that became activated in August of 1956. And when the landslide began, they actually had 150 homes destroyed. There were homes on both sides of the road here, and they had to rescue people in the middle of the night, and homes went right into the ocean. So 225 acres slid towards the ocean, and it's moved over 600 feet since 1956.
Did anybody die in that rescue attempt?
No. LA County was grading Crenshaw Boulevard. You see up there, that's at the end of Crenshaw Boulevard at Del Cerro Park. That hump you see up there, and that little crease you see there, that was Crenshaw Boulevard. It's now called Burma Road or Burma Trail for hiking. They were excavating up there when this all started to slide, and so the people here blamed them for it, and they held them they were held liable in a court case, and they paid the homeowners $10 million in 1960 dollars. And that case resulted in geologists in California having to be licensed. A lot of people took their homes that were knocked off their foundations and moved and stuff, loaded them on a truck and took them over off of Barkentine. They bought lots over there. A lot of those homes over there on the Barkentine area were homes that were picked up from here and taken over there. Slide mechanics, how a slide works. There are rotational slides, there are translational slides. This is a translational slide. What you have is a slide plane, which is typically, in this case, a layer of bentonite. And bentonite is a clay that when you get it wet, it's like a greased credit card. These people were on septic systems that the county grading did not cause their problem. It wasn't determined until years later. It's because water intrusion in septic tanks that they had greased their own skids. So what the mechanics of a slide are is you've got a plane, slide plane, you've got three components: the head, the toe, and the slide plane. The toe of the slide is the resisting force. The head of the slide is the driving force. The land that's sitting on top of that is pushing down. The land down below is resisting. They have what's in geology called a factor of safety. A factor of safety of 1.0 means it's just barely balanced, and if you step on it, it's going to move. Because now the resisting force was equal to the driving force. You put a little more driving force on, and it moves. So what you have here is a very massive head and toe and slide plane. The slide plane is typically about 80 feet down, and what makes this slide, what you normally do is you try to stabilize that slide by either pegging the toe of the slide or taking the driving force off the top, or getting the liquid off of the slide plane. They tried almost all of that. They moved a lot of dirt from up there down here. They put in watering restrictions. They've actually put in a septic system here. You see all their pipes and stuff, everything's above ground. They actually they took them off of the septic systems and they put them on a low pressure sewer system here. And they put in deep dewatering wells. The first wells they put in failed quickly because it was moving so much they just crushed right over. And they lined the canyons so that they're impermeable, so that the water doesn't seep down. So they've done everything they can to dry this out, but they can't stop the slide because you see this road is constantly always moving. So the reason they can't stop the slide is the toe of the slide just happens to come out right at the surf's edge. So you've constantly got these waves lapping away the resisting force, so you don't have a resisting force, and this land just keeps on coming down. So what's happened here is you've had people back here, the city put a moratorium on everything here. I had almost 300 acres of the last Vanderlip property in escrow to a Northern Consortium buyer back around 1980. We were in escrow on that property and doing geology. Since I had an engineering degree, they asked me to be the liaison between the Converse Davis Dixon Geology Company and the buyers to break things down. So I got to come out here with them while they drilled the soil. And funny, the drilling rigs are ancient looking, just an old truck with a helix on the back of it. But they'd come out here and they'd dig these holes down in there, and they'd put a guy in a bosun's chair, lower him down into the hole, some 80, 90 feet deep. As he goes down, he's got a helmet with a light on it and a little chisel and a logbook, and he's going down. He's checking the angle. They have what's called strike and dip in engineering. The strike is the direction of the slope, and the dip is the depth of the slope. And so they're measuring where this land is going, and this is all sloping down. And so they determined that the slide plane is down about 80 feet here. There's another one down at about 120, but they said that the angle of that one is such that it would take a cataclysmic event to cause that one to move. So anyhow, when I was in escrow with that, the Abalone Cove slide started on the other side over here. And so what they did then was they put a moratorium on the whole area. It's killed our sale. Then the people in here weren't allowed to build or use their property for anything. So what they did, someone filed a lawsuit, I think a guy named Monk. He won his lawsuit and said the city can't arbitrarily just tell you can't build on this land because it's unstable. They have to prove that you can't make it stable. So to make it land stable, you gotta bring it up to a factor of safety of 1.5. That means the resisting force is at least 50% greater than the driving force. The trouble is how do you determine you got 1.5? Well, they do lab tests, they take samples of the soil and everything. They got to take a lot of them because you're covering a lot of area. So it's a very iffy thing as to whether you get it done right or not. So after that was passed, the guy called me up and said, hey, I got a lot over there, and the ordinance was just overturned. He says, can I now build on that property? And I said, well, you still have to go through the procedures, but you still have to, follow certain rules. And yes, it's possible now. And he says, well, that would make my lot worth a lot more money, wouldn't it? And I said, well, do you ever go out and look at your lot? He says, yeah, about once a year we go out there. And I said, well, when you go out there and look at your lot, I said, that's not your lot. I said, because your corners of your lot are fixed to the center of the earth. If the land on top moves out there, the street moves with it, you drive up there, you think you're looking at your lot's 600 feet up the hill. And somebody else's house is probably on your lot now. And that's exactly what happened here. They kept fixing the street. It kept going out further and further and further. And finally, when they went to do the last major repair, they said, we're not going to fix it bowed out like that. We're going to put it right back where it used to be. And what happened is two houses that were on this side of the street ended up on that side of the street. So a couple of years ago, one of the guys went to the city. He wanted to start fixing that house up. And the city said, you're on our property, get your house off. And so they had to tear it down. It's gone now. But all these houses you see along in here, they're not on their lot. What do you do about that? I don't know. But right now, we're going to get back on the bus.